continues to pump, with Bitcoin, the price, now above $31,000.
Yes,
and if
we are currently
you're
about
asking
34.
why, as verified by the senior ETF analyst for Bloomberg, BlackRock has just amended their spot Bitcoin ETF for a possible seeding in October.
This rally is way beyond the rumor. I think the rally today is about a flight to quality, and I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality.
Let's dig into this. What is this BlackRock update, and how have they altered their ETF application? So 2 things caught my eye from the latest iShares BlackRock S1 amendment. Number 1, they've obtained a CUSIP in prep for the launch. And 2, they may be looking to seed with cash this month, which is earlier than I would have thought, but maybe nothing. And again, we see confirmation of this in the actual filing, talking about seeding, capital investor, talking about in October. And this was confirmed by the senior ETF analyst for Bloomberg, saying, BlackRock stating in the recent spot Bitcoin ETF amendment that they are seeding the ETF in October. Don't want to read that much into it, but this is new info, not an original filing, so noteworthy, especially because they BlackRock. And for the layman, what this means to you, seeding an ETF is when initial funding is provided, typically by a bank or broker-dealer used to purchase a few creation units, in this case Bitcoin, in exchange for ETF shares, which can be traded in open market on day one. Note, seeding is typically not a lot of money, just enough to get the ETF going, so I wouldn't read this as OMG, BlackRock is buying a ton of Bitcoin at all, but more the fact that they're doing it and disclosing it shows another step in the process of launching. And let's be real. Maybe I'm missing something, but every ETF is seeded. Yes, totally normal, but that's kind of the point. It happens when ETFs are preparing for launch. And what did SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce just say this morning?
I can't say whether or not the commission is ready to approve a Bitcoin exchange traded product. I've been thinking we should approve one for the last 5 years. So that the logic for why we haven't has always mystified me. The court case obviously is an important factor in the landscape, but I can't guess as to my colleagues' approach to this topic.
So that's pretty big news that the head of the SEC says that there should have been an ETF a long time ago. So currently we don't have one approved yet, but it is the end of October, and we should have one approved for sure by next year. But everybody's speculating that it will happen this year. So we'll see what happens. Apparently that every time BlackRock has filed for an ETF, they've always got it approved. So that's why people are speculating that, you know, we might see a ETF sooner than later, and probably by BlackRock.
Bitcoin and certain assets, okay? Now you can see that these lines have always been very, very, very correlated until very recently, where Bitcoin started to become more correlated to gold than it started to become to stocks. Okay, so why? What happened on the 16th of October that changed that? What happened on the 16th of October that all of a sudden Bitcoin started to stop being correlated to stocks and start being correlated to gold? And if you can work it out, maybe that's a sign for what Bitcoin's going to do in the next coming days, weeks, months, years.
I don't know what happened.
That's the day that Larry Fink went on television and says that he thinks that crypto is a flight into quality. That is the day where everything changed. Literally, if you go back to all the charts, the correlation, this was posted on October 16th. This flight to safety.
Whether that is in treasuries, gold, or crypto, depending on how you think.
So this flight to safety discussion, this flight to safety tweet, this flight to safety interview, this flight to safety narrative all started on the 16th of October. And from the day that started, everything changed. Now, I know you probably think, well, no, it's completely coincidental. I don't think it's coincidental.
I don't think so
I don't
either.
think at all that it is coincidental that specifically on the day that Larry Fink, who is the world's biggest asset manager, or he leads up the world's biggest asset manager, I don't think that it's a coincidence that on the day that he says that Bitcoin is a flight to safety, on that day, the correlation between Bitcoin and all other risk assets starts to change, and Bitcoin starts to become much more correlated to gold than to any other risk assets. The king has spoken. The head of the biggest asset manager in the world, the one who creates all the investment narratives, went up onto stage and said, from this day forth, Bitcoin is a store of value. It's a flight to safety, which stocks are not. If you look at Bitcoin as an asset class performance, in 2011, Bitcoin was the best performing asset class. The second was gold. 2012, best performing asset class. 2013, best performing asset class. 2014, worst performing asset class. 15, 16, and 17, best performing asset class. 18, worst performing asset class. 19, 20, 21, best performing asset class. 2022, worst performing asset class. Okay, now I remember when we were kids and they used to give us those puzzles and they say like, what's the next part of the pattern here?
Yeah.
So what is, Scarecrows, what is the next part of the pattern here? So we had 3 positive, best performing asset, 1 worst. 3 best, 1 worst. 3 best, 1 worst. What happens in 2024 and 2025 into the halving years and into the election years? 2 more best. And then what happens in 2026 when, by the way, when this cycle here says that things are going to turn? The next bear market starts. Do you see how all the pieces are starting to come together? Do you see how all the pieces are starting to come together here? Anyway, you choose how you want to see it. Regardless, though, we can see that when Larry Fink opened his mouth, even though here in crypto, we just thought that was great and him talking up his book, he actually, maybe he's the reason why things changed specifically on that day. I mean, I think that was the big endorsement that made all the fund managers realize that, you know what, maybe this thing is actually a flight to safety. So that's what it is.
And that could be true. October 16th could be the day that changed everything. And we'll find out in the future.
The digital euro is on the move. Yesterday, the Governing Council of the ECB approved the opening of the preparation phase. It will be a journey, and we will walk the journey together with the legislator. All European institutions will be involved to make sure that Europe is equipped with the currency of the future.
And now we also have the EU announcing that digital currencies are here. So we should be seeing some more news about that in the future and how they're going to roll that out. So the only thing right now is what country will be the first to drop their CBDC. Either China or Europe, I'm speculating.
To clarify, what we know is that obviously the Israeli authorities have said that they've seized a certain amount. The key thing that this points to is that there's actually a digital paper trail. So we're able to see when bad actors have actually used cryptocurrency, there's a way to trace their transactions, right? The blockchain data is traceable. Again, that digital paper trail actually has led to disruptions. It's led to seizures. What we don't know specifically is, well, how much has actually been used. Those numbers that I think that we've seen in reports need some context. What may be happening on the ground is, you have in certain territories, you have over-the-counter brokers that may be serving Hamas and may be serving other customers. If those brokers, for example, have a link to Hamas, their accounts could be seized. It's possible that their accounts could be seized, and those accounts could include not just the crypto that Hamas is using or has used, but other users as well. So the numbers may be just a little, may require a little bit more context. We don't know exactly how much has gone to Hamas. But the key point is that the fact that those transactions occur allows for disruption.
As Russia invaded Ukraine, about how that country and Russian oligarchs were moving funds around with crypto, and we're hearing now more and more about how Hamas may be funding certain operations or getting donations via crypto. Do you have any sense of how much of these funds are in crypto versus fiat currencies or versus, for example, the U.S. dollar?
Well, if you're talking about Hamas, right, the universe of their funding is vast in general. Hamas has a mix of sources. You have to think about it, right? They are doing taxation. They have businesses. In fact, U.S. Treasury actually sanctioned the Hamas Investment Office. Yes, that's an actual entity. Last year for its portfolio, which was $500 million in cash with businesses, real estate, mining, businesses that were across.
So that's just one part of what's going on, that they think that Hamas is being funded by crypto, but we all know that the U.S. dollar is by far the best way to do illicit activities and not get caught. but I digress.
We worked hard on this.
Obviously, they conveyed it as a sort of a serious piece of punditry. Jon Stewart, very respected for his willingness to go out on a limb and talk about the Wuhan lab leak story, for example. He might not be on the same side of the aisle as a lot of you, but Jon Stewart, in my opinion, has a great deal of integrity. That's why he won't be allowed on Apple for very long at all. He's not allowed on it anymore. But where will this end? Let's see how the legacy media reported on this.
Jon Stewart's Apple TV show The Problem with Jon Stewart is done after 2 seasons. Staff members say Stewart told them last night he and Apple executives agreed to pull the plug. The former Daily Show host had creative control over the show, but again, according to staff members, Stewart told them the company had concerns about the subject matter for the upcoming season.
Oh, the subject matter. I wonder what subjects matter.
The planned topics included China, Israel, and AI.
Okay. So, John, what are you going to be talking
Those are
about
big topics.
on the next series? Just one moment, please. Have Jon Stewart killed? Sorry, what was that? No, I'm saying we're not making the show anymore, but God, it's been great working with you. You're very brave. I mean, it's not me. I wish it was up to me. We just can't, you know how it is, John. Because remember, all of these shows and platforms have to look credible. They have to look like they're telling you the truth. Like, that's why when you watch regular news on CNN or BBC, dum 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 dum, hello, it's the news. This is serious. This isn't just a TV show that's ultimately funded by Big Pharma. What we're doing now is important, and I'm definitely wearing pants under this desk. Shut up.